You're live. Wonderful. Okay. Well, let's fix this shot a little bit. Pump this up. Not bad. Wonderful. Okay. So, I want to talk today about the movies I watched in July, this last month, because I want to practice talking on camera more. And so I figure if I do some more streaming and instead of actual just tests, which I've been doing nonstop, now I should actually do something where I talk about movies. Well, not necessarily movies. Movies are just an easy thing to talk about because I watch so many movies. Every year I try to watch 365 movies. It's kind of a goal of mine. In most years I don't quite get there, but this was it 2 years ago I did it, and last year I didn't attempt the goal. This year I'm way behind. I'm only at 100 so far this year, because of a lot of things. Because sometimes it's hard to watch movies when things are awful. You know, it's nice to watch movies when things are going good. I think everything that's happening in the world has made it very difficult to watch movies, especially new movies. So I've been watching a lot of old movies that I've seen before. I'm trying to pull the list up, so I'm a little distracted. I'm also trying to set this up on my iPad so I can listen to myself. Because for some reason, the A10 Mini, which is what I'm using to stream, it doesn't have a headphone. And I don't think there's any way to listen on the YouTube to watch it live. So you have to get an iPad and watch off that. So, and then it's super behind, so it's distracting as on top of everything else. So it's not the most ideal system. I really wish the ATEM had an output that I could listen to. And actually I might be able to. That's a whole other video. But for now, let's just try to get this started. How many movies did I even watch? We're at 100 because I watched one this morning at midnight, which is technically August 1st. We can include that. But we started at 63 and we ended at 99. So what is that, 36? Seems like it's a pretty good number. It's a pretty good amount. So you're pulling it up on the YouTube, making sure the microphone sounds good before we get off to the races. This is such a slow process, and it's already 3 minutes in. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of live content because it's not as good as or polished. And this really shows. There needs to be a buffer. I don't know what to. Maybe there needs to be 5 minutes in 5 minutes, and that way I can test things. Wonderful. It does work. Sounds pretty good. Today I'm shooting on my 5D Mark IV instead of, I had been using my Sony ZV-1 in this room, and I had been using my Sony FS7 out there, which those are the videos that I saved. It looks a little dark. I don't know if we can change this on the fly. Wrong way. There we go. That looks pretty good. Wonderful. I think if I set up my A10 Mini out, but again, we're getting into the weeds here. So let's talk about the movies I watched. I watched 36 of them. So let's start on the first. Movie was on the first, actually. It was Blue Streak with Martin Lawrence. He plays a jewel thief who hides a jewel in what turns out to be a police station and has to con his way back into the police station to retrieve this fancy jewel. And along the way, he learns lessons or something. I don't know. He helps solve some crimes with Owen Wilson, who's his partner, who plays kind of the dumb cop. And it's actually pretty good. Holds up. It's good comedy. Martin Lawrence is great. I like Martin. He needs to be in more things. Martin as a cop, Bad Boys, Blue Streak, it works. Sign me up. Next, we watched Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which is much better than the Jay and Silent Bob reboot because it's actually a movie as opposed to just a love letter to characters. But it's an older film. I want to say, was it 2001 maybe? So that makes it almost 20 years old, which is weird to think about. That can't be right. It can't be that. It can't be that old. I'm going to look it up. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Silent Bob. Let's look it up. Yeah, 2001. Holy moly. I feel like I did see that movie in theaters, which is weird to think about. It's just weird. 2001. Wow. Jay and Silent Bob really, when you think about it that way, Jay and Silent Bob really was kind of an era with Kevin Smith just hit those movies out pretty quick then, didn't he? That's wild to think about because I was kind of before. I really wasn't on the radar. I really didn't get into Clerks. So I probably didn't see Jay and Silent Bob in the theater then if it was 2001 because I think I started watching Clerks when I worked at an ice rink. So that probably would have been 2005 or 2006. So just barely missed it like a lot of things in life. But we're not going to complain. I think it's still a good movie. I think it still holds up. I've always loved Jay and Silent Bob, and maybe that's why I think it holds up is because I like Kevin Smith a lot. So next on the list, the third movie we watched was Office Space. Again, just another classic comedy. What does it really just say about Office Space? If you haven't seen it, just go watch it. It's still great. It still holds up. That movie's even older. So, Mike Judge did a really good job with that film. And yeah, I don't know. This isn't going to be that interesting of a video now that I'm talking about it because most of these movies are kind of just like standard comedy films because that's all I really felt like watching this last month. Next movie we watched was Malibu's Most Wanted. That movie's kind of dumb. Jamie Kennedy. It's kind of like an 8 Mile parody, but not. It's got its moments. It's all right. Something you can turn on and kind of just not have to pay much attention to, and you still kind of get what's happening. I'll say, give it a chance. Watch it. Next up, Miss Congeniality. Sandy Bullock. She is amazing. I love Sandy Bullock. And she is amazing in this film. She has comedy chops. She's great. And the Miss Congeniality movies are pretty good. And the first one is quite good. I would highly recommend that film if you're looking for something just to put on and watch, just to kind of kill some time. It's good action comedy mystery. There's a mystery, kind of, not really. I don't know. It's a good movie. I like it. Next, Orange County, which Jack Black is good in it. Jack Black is good in everything. Jack Black is a national treasure, and he needs to be in way more things. And he needs to time travel back in time and be in more things because I don't think I've seen a bad Jack Black performance in anything. Like anything he's done is great. I love Jack Black. The rest of the movie, I'm not too wild about it. I know a lot of people like it, but I'm just like, it's kind of, I'm not gonna say it's not good. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of boring. Like the only good bits are Jack Black's bits. Like that's really the only good part of the film. And I had more critique about the film after I watched it. It's kind of a coming of age story. And considering how many like good cameos are in the film should have been way better. Like they really wasted a lot of good opportunities. I'm trying to think of what some of the cameos. I think Ben Stiller is a cameo. He's like a firefighter, but he like doesn't even have any jokes. You're just like, what is this? Anyway, we're not critiquing films. We're talking about how much we like films, because critiquing is dumb and liking films is good. That's what we want. We want to like films. We want to be a film liker. What did we watch after that? We watched Orgasmo, which is Matt Stone and Trey Parker's. It's not their first film, but it did come out like right before South Park did. So that's back in like 96, 95, 96. Just kind of a weird movie about a crime-fighting superhero who's in the porn world. It's just very strange and it's funny. It holds up. It's still pretty good. And it's interesting to watch those guys, before everything got big. And I wonder what they think about that movie now, which is 25 some years later. Like, what do they, you think they're still proud of that movie? Probably. It's a good movie and you should watch it. Next, Super Troopers. That movie is just A+, great comedy. I think that was actually the first rated R movie I saw in theaters was Super Troopers. My friend Mike worked at the theater, and they wouldn't sell me a ticket, and he just snuck me in. So thanks, Mike. Good guy. Next, we watched We're the Millers. Me and my dog watched We're the Millers, and that's a good one. It's so weird to think about that movie because it was in 2013, which is like almost a decade ago now, and you're like, wow, where does the time go? Like when you watch movies that you watched in theaters, you're just like, man, that's so long ago. It doesn't feel that long ago. It was 7 years ago. Like it's a whole different lifetime. But that movie still holds up. It's a good movie. I don't know his name. What's his name? The guy. It's not Jason Bateman. Is it, can't think of his name. The actor. The main actor. He's great in it. And Jennifer Aniston's great in it. Jennifer Aniston kind of plays the same character in every film she's in, but I don't care. I just want more of it. Jennifer Aniston also, she's great. She's not like the best actress, but just the character she ends up playing in every movie. Like I feel like a lot of people just write roles specifically for Jennifer Aniston, and she always knocks it out of the park. Her and Jack Black. Let's get those two in a movie together. Are they ever in it? Have they ever been in a movie together? I can't think of any. If you could think of a movie that both Jack Black and Rachel Aniston have been in, probably Friends. There might be an episode of Friends somewhere, because Jack Black has a lot of weird cameos and things that you just Jack Black. So yeah, but leave a comment if you could think of one where they're in the same movie, or if you know the Friends episode that they might have been in. Next up, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. A lot of people were talking about this film recently because it's the 10-year anniversary of the film. Again, another film that just holds up great. A+ film, highly recommended. If you haven't seen it, they did a cast reading of it, and it was apparently very good. I didn't watch it because I feel like seeing the cast do a table read of a movie that already exists is like, why don't you just go watch the movie? I don't quite get that, but I mean, they're having fun, so people liked it. So who am I to judge? You know, it was for charity, so don't be a dick about it. Empire Records next. This is a cult classic movie. I feel like a lot of people have not seen this movie, and they need to see the movie. It's a great film about a record store. That's it. That's all I'm going to tell you. Just go watch the film. It's just a day in the life, kind of a record store. And it's a great film. It holds up, and you need to watch it because the guy from all those movies in the 90s is in it. What's his name? Ethan Umbry, I think is his name. He's one of the stoner record clerk guys. He's also the bass player in That Thing You Do, and he's also the main character in Can't Hardly Wait. And he's in a couple other movies, but I like him a lot too. That's another person who needs to have been in more movies. Him and Jack Black and Steve Zahn. While we're here, let's talk about Steve Zahn. Steve Zahn's great. He was in That Thing You Do too. Him and Jack Black together, Saving Silverman. That's a great movie, and I wish those two had great chemistry, I think. And I think they should have been David Spade and Chris Farley style, like put them in everything. I mean, that really didn't happen. Those guys were in 2 movies together, but Tommy Boy and Black Sheep are both great movies, and I haven't seen either of those yet this year, so I'm gonna put those on the list. I've been waiting on Black Sheep because it's an election year, and I kind of want to wait till we're a little closer, but now that's August, we're getting pretty close to election time. I think I can sign off on that. Speaking of Ethan Umbry, Vegas Vacation was the next film I watched, which is the more recent one with Chevy Chase, and they go to Vegas, and the kids are a little older. And I watched that as a kid, and I really liked it, and I watched it recently, and I'm like, okay, I think that's still kind of okay, you know. It's not terrible, you know, it's all right. It's worth watching. That's kind of how I feel about all those National Lampoon's movies. Like they're all right. Like there's some funny moments, and I feel like a lot of those movies are better. I'm not gonna say out of context, but when you take some of the jokes and you kind of make them your own with your family and friends, like Napoleon Dynamite's another good example. Like there's a lot of quotables from Napoleon Dynamite and from the National Lampoon movies, but like when you watch it in the film, it's not that funny, but when you like pull it and reference it, it can, it takes on new life and it's pretty good. I feel like that's kind of how meme culture works. There's a lot of things where in their natural habitat, like you're like, it's pretty funny, huh? And then someone makes a meme and you're like, yes, and you send it to all your friends, all 6 of them. No one has friends anymore, right? Or is that just me? I just not have friends? I don't know. I'm an introvert and a bit of a shut-in, and I think everything sucks. So, okay. Next, Moulin Rouge. That's a classic. Ewan McGregor. Well, we're talking about people that are amazing and great, and I love Ewan McGregor. And he sings in the movie, and he's an amazing singer. And I'm like, why hasn't he sung in every movie? That wasn't the first time I watched it. I watch that movie like every year, but it still holds up, and it's still great, and it's one of my favorite musicals, and you should watch it if you haven't. And if you have, go watch it again, because Ewan McGregor singing, and it's just beautifully tragic. That's great, and I love it, and you should too. Speaking of awesome musicals, next up was The Producers, the more recent version with Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane. I haven't seen the Gene Wilder version. I think I tried to watch it once, and I wasn't clicking with it, and I just wasn't in the mood to watch a new movie, so I turned it off. So I might have to go back and revisit that because I've heard good things, and I like Gene Wilder. And who's the other one? Is it Mel Brooks? Is the other one in that? Who plays Nathan Lane's character? I don't know. But I might go back and revisit that one this month because, I like the new version of it. So maybe I like the old version. Give it a chance. We'll see. But The Producers, the newer version with Uma Thurman, Matthew Broderick, and Nathan Lane is great. And Will Ferrell's in it too. I didn't always like Will Ferrell. I've kind of grown to like him a little more as I've gotten older. And I think that was just because in high school I hated everything that was popular, and Will Ferrell was very popular then. But now, as I've gotten older, maybe I've gotten less snobby about everything, and I'm like, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, speaking of Will Ferrell, next movie was Step Brothers. And that's just another good comedy. That was one that I didn't really like when I first saw it when I was younger. But again, it's a comedy snob. And I think it was kind of the opposite of what happens with what I was talking about earlier with Vegas Vacation and with Napoleon Dynamite, where you have the quotes and you reference it and it's great and it's funny and it makes it better. But then you watch the film and it's not as good. I feel like Step Brothers got quoted a lot and got referenced a lot. And I think the people that were quoting and referencing it weren't that funny or cool. And I was like, I don't really want to see it because I don't like you people. Meet the Parents was another one that was like that. A lot of people took those quotes and really ran with them in real life. And that kind of made me not like it. Same with Chappelle's Show. I did not like Chappelle's Show growing up because the day after Chappelle's Show would air, people would just run the quotes, the catchphrases into the ground about everything. And you're just like, it's not even clever what you're doing. You're just saying it. If you're going to reference a movie, you got to kind of pick your little moments, because otherwise you can run them into the ground pretty quick, and it's kind of stupid. So that was that one. After that, on the 10th, watched Mallrats, which is a movie that I don't think is actually a very good movie. But I like it all the same because I like Kevin Smith. I like his movies. I like Jay and Silent Bob, as we've already discussed. Mallrats just not, if you're not into the Jay and Silent Bob world, Mallrats just really isn't that good of a movie. So you don't watch it. After that, Fight Club. I kept seeing that get referenced, so I wanted to watch it again. So I watched Fight Club, and it holds up. It's still a good movie. The interesting thing about Fight Club, I think, is that depending on where you are in life, you get kind of a different message from the movie. I think when I was a teenager and I watched it, it really resonated with me because I just wanted to smash things. I was like, yeah, smash things. And now that I'm 33, I can watch it, and you can see it for what it is. It's kind of a parody on toxic masculinity, and you can kind of be like, okay. It's not funny, but it's a very different message you get from it. as an older adult male who doesn't just want to crush things nonstop, who isn't just angry at the world. I mean, I am angry at the world, but I found better ways than just going out and smashing things. So, not that I ever smashed things. I was a good boy. Next on the list, on the 11th, we watched Legally Blonde, which Reese Witherspoon, she's great. Who else is in that movie? I don't remember her name. I want to say Liv Tyler, but that's not right. She's in Empire Records, though. I don't know her name, but this is a brunette girl. She's in it. Legally Blonde is a great film. I think it's used actually in a lot of screenwriting books because it has very good script form. It's mentioned in Save the Cat, I think, a number of times. And I think if you want to be a screenwriter and you want to learn how to write good, I don't want to say formulaic, but if you want to write stories that work and that have good formula and that have like a good shape and that are like, it's just good all the way through. Like the writing is good, the structure is great. Yeah, it's a good film to watch if you want to be a filmmaker or if you want to be a writer or if you just like Reese Witherspoon, because she's great in that film, because she's great in a lot of things, actually. A lot of people don't give her more credit. She needs more credit. Her, Jack Black, Steve Zahn, Ethan Embry, and Jennifer Aniston. Let's put all those five. Let's write a movie for them. And put them all together and just say, there. And there'll be 3 sequels, like Pitch Perfect. Speaking of, that's coming up. But before we got to that, we watched Old School. And I keep saying we. We is me and my dog. And even he only like kind of watches the movies. He usually just falls asleep. I think he just hopped up on the bed. I don't think we can see him. I can't really see the bottom of the frame. No, I don't know. Anyway, Old School. That movie, I'm going to say skip it. It doesn't hold up. It has a lot of the comedy that you really can't. It's not appropriate anymore. It's a lot of punching down, which was a very popular thing in that kind of 2005, 2012. It probably didn't even go to 2012, but in that genre of movies, the bro college movies, which were popular when I was in college, a lot of them don't hold up anymore because you can't really say some of the things that they said. Then we went on a bit of a Wes Anderson kick, and we watched Royal Tenenbaums, Rushmore, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Darling Limited. I don't know how to pronounce that movie title. That was the first time I had seen the Darjeeling Limited, maybe? I don't know. Take Me in the Bottom, how it's supposed to actually be pronounced. It was the first time I ever saw that movie, and I thought it was lovely. I don't want to say it was boring. It doesn't feel like it's not a high-stakes movie. And sometimes, the first time I watch them, I'm not really in love with them, but if I think about them after, I can kind of sit with the characters a little more, and I'm just like, okay. Yeah, a lot of Wes Anderson films are kind of like that. Like Royal Tenenbaums also doesn't really feel like a high-stakes movie. Things just move. There's obviously some big moments that happen in the movie, a lot of drama, but for the bulk of it, doesn't really feel like all that serious. And same with Rushmore. I mean, the things that are happening are important to the people in the movie, but to the viewer, to an outside person, you're just like, well, that's just their life, and we're just kind of observing, and it's kind of interesting, but I don't know. But you just kind of become fascinated with it. They're nice. They're just nice films. Wes Anderson has a lot of films like that. Fantastic Mr. Fox, though, on the other side, that's more of here's a drama, and you can kind of get in there. You can really care, and you really feel a lot of empathy for the characters, I think. And you're really excited. You're real enthralled, and that's a great film. I love how they just you cussing at me, and to keep it kid friendly, and the animation style. It's so great. I think they actually shot that on a 5D, which is the same camera that I'm using now. They just did stills, because it's claymation or puppetry or whatever you want to call it. But that's a great film, and you should watch it. It's actually pretty short. So there's that. And then after my Wes Anderson kick, We hopped out of that with Pulp Fiction, which is just maybe, if we're talking about movies as a whole genre, which is something you really can't do, if you really zoom out, Pulp Fiction might be the best movie ever made. It's not my favorite. I'm gonna not get it twisted. It's not my favorite film, but I think it might be the best movie ever made for the widest possible audience. And I think that's why it's endured for so long, is because it is a great film and it has like all these little mini stories in it that kind of slam together. But I can't think of another movie that has the same kind of appeal that Pulp Fiction does on that level. I mean, we're talking like Disney films might also like hit that list a lot. You know, Star Wars, definitely. Maybe Indiana Jones, those kind of movies. But like for adult viewers of film on a cinema level, like here's a movie like as an art form, I really struggle to think of a movie that's better and as highly rated for the widest number of people that would really beat Pulp Fiction. You know, maybe Batman, Christopher Nolan's Batmans, especially The Dark Knight with the one with Heath Ledger. That one might be up there also. The Godfather would be on the list. You know, you're swinging some big heavy hitters when you're talking about those movies. And there really isn't many films that are in that tier of cinema, you know? And it does feel like a film school nerd to say that, because that's what all like the first year film school kids are like, Pulp, who are your favorite directors? Like Quentin Tarantino. I love Pulp Fiction. It's why I wanted to become a filmmaker. Which, cool. I don't know. I hear that a lot talking to other filmmakers, and I don't really like talking about films with other filmmakers because it can get exhausting, and sometimes it feels very performative, and they want to tell you about like, I watched the Criterion Collection, and that's all I watch. And you're like, great. I think a lot of those movies are boring as fuck. I like watching dumb movies, and that's the kind of stuff I want to make. I want to make dumb stuff, and I think that's okay. I think you should be allowed to make dumb stuff because people like dumb stuff, because it reminds them that they're not that dumb, maybe, or I don't know. It's something to watch. Turn your brain off. It's an escape, and that's what I love about movies, and that's what I love about film. And I think you shouldn't have to watch Fellini's 8.5, even though I think it's a great film, and I think you should watch it, especially if you do anything at all creative. You should watch 8.5, and you should suffer through the subtitles. If you don't like reading them, I don't care. Watch it anyway, because it's a great film, and there's a lot to learn and a lot to grab and pull from, and it enriches your life. But at the same time, if you want to go watch Malibu's Most Wanted, I'll sit down and watch it with you, because I like dumb movies too. You can like smart movies and dumb movies. That's the good thing about art, is that you can like the dumb stuff. And if you want to be snobby about it, fuck you. Anyway, speaking of dumb movies, after that, we watched the entire Pitch Perfect saga, 1, 2, 3. Pitch Perfect 1 is the best one. Pitch Perfect 3 is the second best one. Number 2, skip it. It's not that good. I'm trying to remember what I really didn't like about it. It feels very unrealistic. And I think one of the problems the Pitch Perfect films have is that there's these big jumps between them, timeline-wise. And I don't think I've ever seen a movie or a series where that tactic is used and it's effective. You know, if you jump in time and you just omit this period and then you like kind of like backfill, like Parks and Rec did that in the last season, and that season's just, I pretend like it doesn't exist, because except for like the finale, it's not done. You have this big like drama between Leslie and Ron. Spoilers if you haven't seen Parks and Rec, but here it comes. You have this drama between Leslie and Ron, and then it kind of like, you should know, viewer, what it was. Like that's kind of how it feels, and you just kind of get these like little breadcrumbs to figure it out until they kind of expel the whole thing and you're like, that's all it was about. Like, that's dumb and doesn't feel right for the characters. But if we had been there during that saga, it actually probably would have been way more interesting than the makeup part. And it would have made the makeup part like have a real catharsis, and we would have liked it a lot better. Like, I love Parks and Rec. I think Parks and Rec is probably the second best sitcom behind 30 Rock. 30 Rock is the best. Parks and Rec, probably number 2. Brooklyn Nine-Nine's in there. I mean, maybe Brooklyn Nine-Nine might be number 2, but I'm kind of losing it as it's getting more overt. You know, the good thing about Brooklyn Nine-Nine was like it had this really diverse cast and it tackled these kind of messages, which were good, but it did it subtly. And now the most recent season, it's gotten very heavy-handed with its like after-school messaging. And I wish it would kind of go back to the subtlety, which is what makes it great, because it doesn't feel preachy when it's subtle. It just feels like these are messages you can get on board with. And instead it's just like, oh, remember how men are terrible? And you're like, yeah, I know men are terrible. You don't got to spell it out like that. Like, I'm a man and I'm terrible, and so are all my friends. Like, this, you know, it's not new information. I don't feel anything. It just feels like you're getting yelled at, which, like, that doesn't open hearts and minds. But I think they walked the line the best, I think, with the Terry Crews episode with the racist cop. I think that was kind of walking the line as tight as they could have. And I think that was really good. And a lot of people liked that episode. And they're like, a lot of people like this episode, so let's do that again. And that's where it kind of got, when they were doing these other topics, it got really heavy-handed and stupid. Sorry. I mean, I still like the show, but like, yeah, it's so heavy-handed and you just like can't get on board with it. Like, I agree with like everything they're saying, but I'm just like, yeah, great. Like, that's just, you just like polite clapping for when someone says something that everyone should agree with. I don't know. It's not as entertaining. But we're talking about Pitch Perfect films, so there's that. They're good. Watch them. Anna Kendrick, she's great, but she's not what makes the movie. I think Brittany Snow and Rebel Wilson, I like them a lot better than Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick's cool and great, and she's got her moments, but I think Brittany Snow is really the one who makes the Pitch Perfect movies good. And Rebel Wilson, close second, although in the second and third ones, Fat Amy gets heavy-handed, as we're just talking about why heavy-handed isn't as great, whereas Brittany Snow kind of maintains that level of subtlety that makes her feel like a real person. I guess maybe that's my big critique, is that when you're heavy-handed with political messaging, it doesn't feel authentic. It feels performative. And I think that's why subtlety works so much better. So, yeah, I think if people are watching this live stream back, you could probably take a lot of my words out of context and they probably don't sound so good. But if you take that last bit, that heavy-handedness is performative. It's not authentic. I think that's a good message there. I'm going to have to sit on that one. I'm going to write that one down. But anyway, on to the next, talking about authenticity. The next film I watched was called Infamy. It's a documentary on graffiti. And it's one of my favorite documentaries, and my camera just turned off, I think because we hit the 30-minute mark, or maybe the battery died. Let's see what happened. But the good thing is we have the audio coming from a different source. Let's see if we get our picture back. Hey, picture's back. Wonderful. So, DSLRs for live streaming, maybe not the best option. Or maybe I just have to like touch it every now and then. Or maybe I have to turn the auto off. The auto off might be at 30 minutes because I did adjust the ISO when we got started. So that might have something to do with it. Anyway, Infamy. It's a documentary about graffiti, and it's a really good documentary. And it's like 20 years old now, but it still holds up. It's still a great film, and you should watch it. I'm pretty sure you can find it on YouTube. Highly recommend it. It gives a real good example of what graffiti is, the graffiti world. And it kind of gives you, it makes you want to go like, I'm going to go be a graffiti artist. And then like towards the end of the film, you're like, oh, there's actually consequences to actions. How surprising. Who knew? But it's a great film all the way around. I think it might still make you want to be a graffiti artist because it does look like a bit of fun. Next, watch The Shawshank Redemption, because that movie I don't think I've seen in a couple years because I've seen it so many times. Back when I lived at home and we had cable and it was on TNT like every single weekend, you just watch it because it's a great film. Actually, here we go. In the echelons of film, Shawshank Redemption might be better than Pulp Fiction. It might be the best movie ever made. Those two, top 5 there. Pulp Fiction, Shawshank, Godfather. That's, I think, those films, the Nolan Batman, right there, throw that there. I think that's Shawshank would give Pulp Fiction a good run for its money. Next, speaking of Jack Black and Steve Zahn, Saving Silverman, great film. Speaking of, we haven't talked about them for like 20 minutes now, but that's a great film and you should watch it. It's a dumb film. My girlfriend hates it because it's dumb and the characters are dumb and the plot line's kind of dumb. But you know what? Like I said, you can watch dumb movies and you can watch good movies, and I don't care. That's the beauty of film, is that it's an art form that's just for everybody. Like music. There's dumb music and there's smart music, and you can like the whole spectrum. No one says you can only like classical music or Criterion Collection. You can go listen to your Justin Bieber, and you can go listen to One Direction, and you can go listen to EDM, and then you can go listen to punk rock, and then go right back to classical or weird prog music, or watch proggy death metal, Death Heaven type stuff, which is what I like. So, but I still like punk music too, which is dumb by comparison. Just saying, I was in some punk bands. That's not important. What is important is the next film I watched was Following, Christopher Nolan's first film. It's pretty short. It's like 90. It's not 90, even 90 minutes. It's like an hour long. It's good. It's interesting. The cinematography isn't quite there because he was making it when he was a student, I believe, and he was kind of shooting on leftover film. And he was just kind of making it on the weekends, trying to make it good. But he won a lot of film festivals with it, and that's kind of how he got his big break, was Following. And I think it holds up. I think it's a good film, and I think you should watch it, especially if you're interested in seeing where directors came from. And it does kind of have a lot of the Nolan trademarks, writing-wise. It's just not as polished. And I think it's neat to see these films that directors make when they don't have all the studio money and all the studio polish and studio know-how and all like the extra crew members that know everything to really make their films like blow up. And you're like, this is something that maybe I could make. Maybe. I mean, I'm not Christopher Nolan. I can't make Following, but I can make something like it. Maybe, possibly. Who knows? Like whatever. Like this camera is better than the camera Nolan had for that film. So like, there's no reason. Like it's people talk about this like Stanley Kubrick would have killed for one of these. He would have killed for DSLR. Like people, I think he still would have shot film, and he still would have used those big like M20 lights or whatever they are, the M18s that he burned the studio down with that he was using. But like this, what you could do with this, it's battery power. It's got its own battery built in. It's rechargeable. You can change the color. Like, what could Stanley Kubrick have done with this? And it's not just blue. You could change it to any color you want. Or is that still just more blue? Here we go, some purple. Like, what? There's so many things and it's just that quick. I don't need gels. I don't need anything like that. And this camera, equally impressive. Stanley Kubrick killed for it. Anyway, next, watched 4 Rooms, which is kind of 4 short films that all have like an overarching story. Quentin Tarantino directs one of them, and I think he was kind of like, I don't know if he was the head or if he was just the biggest name attached, and that's why he's up in there. I think Robert Rodriguez has a section 2. which is also good, but it really shows that Tim Roth is a great comedic actor. He's got good timing. He's great. And this film is great, and you should watch it if you haven't seen it. And a lot of people haven't seen it or ever heard about it. It was on Netflix for a while. I don't know if it still is, but it's worth your time. Go watch that one. Coming close to the end. Next, Hitman's Bodyguard. That is a film that I feel like should be a bigger deal. You got Ryan Reynolds, you got Samuel Jackson, and you've got Gary Oldman, which is like, it's not an amazing film. Like, don't get me wrong. It's like an action comedy where Ryan Reynolds has to escort Samuel Jackson, who's like a hitman, to a court hearing against Gary Oldman, who's the bad guy. And when you say like that, you're like, that should be great. And it actually is pretty funny and pretty good. Samuel Jackson's actually in a number of like action comedy thriller type films that I think are all watchable, but none of them are like anybody's favorite movie. They're just films that you watch and then you're like, well, that's pretty good. And then you kind of forget about it. I think this Formula 51 maybe, or 47 or something. I don't know. But that movie's good. I haven't seen it in a long time. I want to watch it again, but I remember liking it as a kid. Samuel Jackson's in that one. So you got this one for you to go find if you could find it. Next, Dodgeball. Vince Vaughn. It's a good film. It holds up. Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn. It's great. Watch it. You've probably already seen it. Go watch it again. You know? A+. After that, watch Biodome. That movie doesn't really hold up, and it's kind of stupid. I think it was stupid when I was a kid. I don't even think I liked it then, but I watched it again, and I was like, oh, it's Biodome. Remember this? Pauly Shore. Remember him? It's not that good, but it does remind me that Stephen Baldwin, bit of a smoke show back in the 90s. And Joey Adams. Also, she was, maybe because of the Kevin Smith films, I always found her attractive, but also smoke show. She was a babe. Stephen Baldwin was a babe. They're both babes. But the movie's not a babe. The movie's not a babe. The last one I watched for the month of July was Annie, the 1982 version with Carol Burnett and Annie, the redhead orphan child, who that was the only role I think she ever had. But that movie, it's very good. It holds up. It's a great musical, and you know, sometimes I watch it and I like get kind of bored like midway through, but this time I watched it and I just was like, this movie, it's 2 hours long, but it goes. It's quick and it gets, you know, it moves along to the next song. Here's the song. Here's the next story point. Here's the next song. Like, it goes quick. It's not quite The Godfather in terms of film efficiency, but it's good. And I think you should watch it, and I'm sure you've already seen it. And if you have and it's been a long time, you should watch it again. And my battery just died, so that's good that we ended the list. And there's my dog sneezing in the background. So if you made it this far through all my bullcrap, thank you for watching. I'll probably do some more of these because I want to get better at talking on camera. And I think doing live streams really helps. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and log off. Got to move the camera so I can actually see what I wanted to show you the setup if we can here. Got the ATEM over there. We're just going into a lav mic right here. It's the little guy. I don't know if you can see it. It's just an Aspen mic. It was $40 or whatever. And then we got the 5D Mark IV with the Canon 24-105 f4 lens. And we got window light as our fill. And then we got the Yongnuo 360, which I love as my key light. It's a good light to have around the house to do YouTube things. And at like $150, I think it's an amazing deal. And I think you should buy one if you want to do YouTube. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll be doing more of these as we go. You know, just trying to make some content. Just trying to talk about things. Trying to figure out what people want to see me talk about. And then I will talk about it. So until next time, thanks for watching.